Mac Miller, originally Malcolm James McCormick, was an American rapper, singer, songwriter, and record producer who was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Miller debuted in the Pittsburgh hip-hop scene in 2007 when he was 15 years old. In 2010, he got a record contract with Rostrum Records, and his breakout mixtapes Kids and Best Day Ever were released. Blue Slide Park, Miller's first studio album, was the first independently published debut album to reach the top of the US Billboard 200 since 1995. Miller, a self-taught musician, began playing piano, guitar, drums, and bass when he was 6 years old. He began rapping when he was 14 years old. He had previously aspired to be a singer. So, for today's video, let's dig deeper into the query, was Mac Miller's death an accident or planned? But before we get into it, do me a favor and smash the like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button for notifications whenever a new video is published. Mac Miller's death investigation. Mac Miller's songs serve as an ominous reminder of the cyclical nature of addiction and the all-consuming force of a disease that is affecting America more than a year after his fatal demise. Malcolm James McCormick, a 26-year-old Pittsburgh rapper, was discovered unconscious at his Los Angeles area residence on September 7, 2018, and was pronounced dead shortly after. According to the toxicology results, Miller had fentanyl, cocaine, and ethanol in his system and died of a combined drug poisoning. Federal prosecutors charged 3 individuals earlier this month in the rapper's overdose death, charging that they unlawfully sold drugs to him, including counterfeit prescription tablets laced with fentanyl, which led to his death. In federal court in Los Angeles, Cameron Petit and Ryan Rivas pled not guilty. John Robertson, Petit's attorney, did not answer to ABC News' request for comment, whilst James Cooper, Rivas' attorney, said he had no comment at this time. Meanwhile, Stephen Walter's lawyer William Harris told ABC that his client would be arraigned on October the 31st and would submit a not guilty plea. Miller's overdose death, according to historian David Hertzberg, who examines the history of prescription drug usage in America and narcotics in popular culture, is a striking reminder of how lethal the opioid crisis has become. According to Hertzberg, the addiction pandemic in the United States started in the mid-90s with the development of Big Pharma and the introduction of medications like OxyContin in 1996. But by the late 2000s, it had evolved into an overdose epidemic. According to a 2017 report by the Drug Policy Alliance, a non-profit organization working to end the war on drugs, more than 500,000 Americans died from heroin overdoses between 2000 and 2015, with opioids, both prescription and illicit, being the main drivers of increases in drug overdose deaths over the past 15 years. A man will be charged with fentanyl distribution in the death of Mac Miller. Stephen Andrew Walter, 48, could spend 17 years in jail under a plea deal with federal prosecutors for supplying the fentanyl tablets that Mr. Miller ingested before his death. According to court filings, a Los Angeles man has decided to plead guilty to trafficking the fentanyl tablets that rapper Mac Miller ingested before dying of an accidental overdose in 2018. Stephen Andrew Walter would spend 17 years in jail under a plea deal with federal prosecutors. Mr. Walter was one of 3 people charged in 2019 with the murder of Mr. Miller, a multi-talented musician who sang about drug use and freely discussed his issues with addiction and anxiety. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Central District of California, the 2 additional defendants, Cameron James Petit and Ryan Michael Rivas, will go on trial in March. Mr. Walter authorized Mr. Rivas to provide fentanyl in the guise of counterfeit oxycodone tablets to Mr. Petit on September 4, 2018, according to the plea bargain, which was submitted in court on Monday. Mr. Rivas gave the drugs to Mr. Petit later that evening at Mr. Walter's request, according to the affidavit. Mr. Petit handed the drugs to Mr. Miller, and shortly after, Mr. Miller swallowed the fentanyl, which, together with cocaine and alcohol, led to his death by overdose on September 7, 2018, again according to the affidavit. According to Mr. Walter's plea deal, Mr. Miller would not have died from an overdose, and if it wasn't for the fentanyl contained in the pills that he obtained from Mr. Petit. On November the 8th, Mr. Walter is anticipated to enter a formal plea to 1 count of fentanyl distribution and be sentenced at a later date. On Wednesday, federal prosecutors refused to comment on the plea deal. Mr. Petit's lawyers did not immediately reply to queries. Mr. Rivas' counsel acknowledged that no plea deal had been made in his case. So, do you think Mac Miller's death is caused by a drug overdose? Or do you think it was planned and that someone is behind the incident? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Before leaving, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button for notifications on our future content. With that being said, I'll see you in the next one.